Welcome to Culture Before Content. Culture Before Content from Music for All and presented by Yamaha. And now, here's your host, David Duarte.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm David Duarte, your host, and whether you're here live or catching the replay, I'm super glad you're with us. This show exists because of people just like you, and I hope you share my belief in the power of culture to shape and how it shapes everything we do in the classroom. And at Music for All and within the Culture Before Content community, our mission is to create, provide, and expand positively life-exchanging experiences through music. And none of this happens without support, and we're incredibly grateful to Yamaha, our national presenting sponsor, for helping us bring this mission to life. So, if you are watching live, thank you. However, if you want to catch the show live every week, here's how it works. This feed is typically updated on Saturdays on the Music for All Facebook page. And to join the conversation, just visit the page, open the events tab, and mark down that you're interested and plan to attend. And you can also watch and join the conversation on YouTube. Simply head to YouTube, search for Music for All, click on the live tab, and you'll find us. I do it every week now. It's super easy. And whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can jump in on the chat, leave a comment, and be a part of the show. We've had a lot of comments lately. It's been super fun. And if you miss it live, don't worry. The very impressive audio-only episodes drop every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major platforms. However you tune in, you can find every single episode, audio or video, at musicforall.org/podcast. Woo, we got through all that. Yay. So let's get on to the show this week. So the guest this week is not only an amazing person, but he's also a good friend. So today on the show, we have Dr. Frank Zimmerer, who leads the band program at Antioch High School and Metro Nashville Public Schools, which is one of the most diverse schools in Tennessee. His program has grown through consistency, strong expectations, and a clear musical identity. He is great. His bands play with a sound shaped by daily habits and a culture he's built over time. What sets Frank apart is how naturally he thrives in a community with so many cultures, languages, and backgrounds. He sees students as individuals and creates a band room that honors who they are and what they bring to the ensemble. So without any further ado, please welcome to the show, Dr. Frank Zimmerer.
What's up?
Hey, hello, Frank, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
You too. You know what's better is like I can now pay attention and actually talk to you instead of like organizing my notes and say, oh my gosh. Well, so I know you well enough, but why don't you take a moment and really introduce yourself? Tell us about Frank. Tell us about that. Maybe you play sax or piano or something. And then maybe tell us a little bit about your school.
Well, I'm Frank. Hello. I've been in Metro Nashville Public Schools for 13 years now. I actually grew up in Atlanta. A lot of people don't know that. Went to school in Knoxville, Tennessee at UT. Go Vols always. Tough loss this past weekend against Vanderbilt. We won't talk about that. But then I went to graduate school at Florida State University. Shout out the jazz studies program down there, the music ed program as well. Met my now wife, Jen, and both of us live in Nashville. Again, we've been here about 13 years now. I teach at Antioch High School. It is one of the, if not the highest EL populated school in the state. Over 40 languages are spoken, students from so many countries I can't even describe, in an area of Tennessee that you would never guess would be as diverse as it is. But, you know, when people think of Nashville, they think of country music and they think of twang, and that's not us. So that's why it's fun. But yeah, that's kind of me.
Well, kind of the things like I like to spread about you. Like when we were talking, when we first met, we talked about how many languages are spoken at your school. That was one of the first things that amazed me.
Yeah, a lot. I'm thinking about, you know, one thing that I like to, I'm a big data person. So every year I kind of talk to the students and say, hey, let's see like who we are. I think it's important to know who you are, and we can talk about this as the show progresses about culture and how I build culture. But it's important that we kind of know who we are and that we're not just kids in the Antioch High School band or the director of the Antioch High School band. So at last calculation in my band room alone, I think we're at 15 languages, if I'm not mistaken. The most common being Spanish, Arabic, and English. But we do have Wolof, we have Farsi, we have dialects of Senegal and Nigeria. And then we even have different dialects of Spanish, from the hills of Guatemala, El Salvador. So it's incredible to kind of know how diverse and um, how unique we are as a band room. Not to mention the walls outside the band room, with even more present in the school itself.
But don't you find that, no matter how many cultures that you have in your school, and I know the show is called Culture Before Content, and it is sometimes the culture of the students and the culture of the classroom, but those two intersect. Don't you just find in the end you are just making your band happen, and that the band becomes center?
Yeah, music is music, and I think a lot of people just get caught up in other things around music, and you just you put the instrument together, you play the instrument, and you sound great, and that's what it is. And it's easy. I mean, there's of course other things to it, but it's easy.
Yeah, but I don't think it is that easy. I mean, here's my thing. Here's my thing. Your band has always been great. And I want to say, just a personal shout out to Frank Zimmerer. When I moved to Nashville, I didn't know anybody. You are still the first person that ever said hi to me. You were the first person that ever greeted me. And you just like, when I walked in, I came, I think, I don't even remember what school I was at. Oh, it was your school. You
Yeah.
were the first person to come say hi to me. And it was one of the most welcoming things ever, because when you move, I moved 2,000 miles away. I instantly felt normal for the first time. And that was, quite a journey moving to Nashville when I didn't think I was moving there in the first place. But
Well, yeah, I think
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I think that's important. I've always been the type of person to people call me outgoing. People say that I'm always going to be the one to chit chat, say hello. My wife jokes all the time. She's like, he's always going to say hello to you, whether he knows you or not. He always wants to get to know you. I think that's important. I mean, maybe it's because my dad instilled that into me years ago. He worked for different companies where he had to be out in front and had to talk to people. I was just the same way, going through school, and shout out Clifford Matson, who told us to do something extra always. You always have to put yourself out there, because you never know who you're going to run into. I mean, I ran into students all the time that because I said hello to them, they joined band and they became a great asset to my program. You say hello to someone who may be having a bad day, and if it wasn't for you, they wouldn't get to go to their guidance counselor or their assistant principal that morning. So even with adults, I think it's important to say, hey, introduce yourself and welcome. Maybe that's my southern drawl, but I'm not really. I guess I'm southern because I grew up in Atlanta, but say hello to everyone, as they say.
Yeah, and I think that is something that comes naturally to you, because any interaction I've ever had with you has always been A, positive, and B, inspiring. Because and I think about it, sometimes just back and forth, you'll have a comment that just kind of uplifts your day when you least expect it. But the way you treat people, to me, indicates how you treat the kids in your classroom. And speaking of that first day that we met, I remember being at your school, which, by the way, is a beautiful school. Antioch High School is absolutely beautiful. But just the respect that you show to everyone always is something to be complimented. And I just wonder, is that something that comes naturally for you? Is that something that you instill? I mean, what drives Frank Zimmerer to be who he is?
Yeah, I think both. At the end of the day, and again, this may come out later on in the show, but I can probably count on one hand in all of my years of teaching the amount of students who went on to become music educators. I'm not a music ed farm, or I'm not a musician farm that I'm going to have the next great big person to go to a university and get a scholarship and be awesome. I'm farming citizens, if that's weird to say or whatever. Like, I want them to know how to be professional and be nice to people and be respectful and be confident and not be afraid to ask questions and not be afraid to voice their opinions, and mostly, and again, post-COVID especially, not be afraid to put yourself out there. It's it's okay to take off your headphones, it's okay to take off your hood, it's okay to take off your hat and say hey or listen. And I think the students who know me well appreciate that, and they've known to kind of use that to help them become better citizens, better students, better overall kids, both in the classroom and in their personal lives, which I think I've always valued. Say thank you, say hey, things like that.
Yeah, but this goes back to me to the very reason this whole podcast even exists. Because I think we've been talking culture before content. How long have you and I been talking this?
Oh,
It's
since
like,
yeah, when did you move to Nashville? Since then?
yeah, I mean, and I don't know how it came to be that this that kind of became my driving force, but I think it was just that realization that, yeah, how we perform in the classroom does matter, but none of that is going to happen unless everything's in place. I mean,
Yeah,
you can be the best teacher in the world, but if you have no classroom management, you don't have a system. But I think it just, to me, what drives me is what you were saying, making citizens out of our students, saying thank you, being that band program, being respectful, learning how to, here's one, learning how to listen,
yeah.
whether it's to conversation or just into music in general. And I think, how much of that is built into what you think of to do every day? I mean,
Yeah, you have to the students like people always say, "Oh, this, that, this, and this." Students drive instruction and students drive the bus. You could put anything in front of them. You can be the best teacher in the world. You can be the latest, greatest, coolest, most awesome person of all time, but you don't do anything except tell them what to do maybe and wave your arms, and the students do it themselves. So you have to instill to them your expectations. You have to instill to them how to be an Antioch High School band member. And does it take work? Yeah. Is it hard sometimes? Yeah. But you have to train them and teach them and show them how to do certain things. I mean, this photo on the screen right now, this is of our 8th grade extravaganza, which we started the first year I came to Antioch. And we bring every single 8th grader from all of our feeder schools, take every single person in the band program, whether they're in the freshman band, the beginning band, the symphonic band, the wind ensemble, whatever, throw them all in a room. They meet each other, they hang out, they play music together. And it's like, it's what you do. The older students grab a younger student and say, hey, we're going to be friends now. The students who may not have had a class with a student or may not have been in marching band with that student, who have no idea who that is, maybe like, wow, you're also a sophomore. I'm a sophomore. I never knew that you were a band student until now. And this is cool. And now we're friends. And now we're both doing this. And it's like, you have to do things like that. And you have to show students, leadership, and you have to show them, how to be a servant leader. Right. So all those things you talked about, I mean, it's instilled in what we do. Yes, there's still hand holding, and yes, there's still, corralling and herding of sorts, but because you instill so much of some of these aspects into them, students can 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 fly their own wings of sorts.
and what do you think drives your students to get more people in band? Do you think like that event itself?
Yeah,
y-
experiences are one thing. I think too, a lot of our students, not just, band students, but in our school, like they don't really, and maybe it's because it's post-COVID, they haven't really been a part of something before. Yes, of course, sports are big, but sports are expensive, and sports require, families to understand what those sports are. And so, you know, for us, the the thing about doing band is you're not just gonna, learn how to play an instrument and play concerts and do all those things, but meet friends and hang out and, you know, work together and, you know, argue together and become a family together and learn about having to, like I talked about before, like learn how to be a, a young adult and then a comparable citizen and be respectful, all those things. Because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to turn out, the latest, greatest, most awesomest musicians. I'm trying to make great citizens that whatever they do in their life, they use their experiences in the band room to be a better person, you know?
See, here's Craig, he's guest 59. I love, and also now my cohort. But the
Nice.
best thing I learned as a teacher that helped culture is it's not my band or orchestra, it's their band and orchestra. And I know, Frank, that is total you. And it takes a while to learn to let go, because I think maybe it's time for hot take. I'm not sure whether this is a hot take or not, but I tend to think that competition sometimes drives us to do the wrong things. And I don't mean
Hot
that as
take,
a,
that's correct.
and I
Yes.
don't think that is an absolute.
No.
Because if you're going to ask me, what would you rather have, a band that's happy and loves each other, or one that wins? And I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I'm not trying to make some random comparison here, but I'm
Hot take.
always going to.
I can give you a hot take. Hot take, competitive band is not for me, and it's hard to do competitive band with some of the stuff that I do. Um, we don't go after those type of things. again, for marching band, we're a Friday night football band, we're a hangout band, like I like to say, but it's not like we're hanging out being bad. We do other things. The last few photos you've seen on screen are some community performances, going out and playing for other people. We love showcasing ourselves for those who may not know who we are or may not see us. Definitely, they're not going to see us at a football game because they may not think football is an important thing. So yeah, it's way more important to give them experiences and to work towards those type of goals, to me, than to go compete.
Yeah, and maybe talk about a little bit more, because you mentioned it a little bit, but I'm not sure if you're not from Nashville, you're going to know what Antioch is like.
Yeah.
And because I always tell people, and this is maybe a little history on Nashville here, but Davidson County and Nashville are kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then all those places inside of Nashville that have names like Antioch or Hermitage, they're still Nashville. It's just that they've got their own name, but it's literally just a part of Nashville. And Antioch, is a definitely a different than, it's definitely different than Hermitage, definitely different than Madison and all those. But maybe talk a little bit about your school and the area that you teach in, because I think part of this goes to, competition is the devil. To me, I guess it's time for hot take again. To me, competition is great if it's apples to apples. But when you're stuck with your orange box, I don't know why it's always apples and oranges. I don't really particularly like either one. But when you're stuck trying to compete with, no money, no funds, but you are probably doing better than most because you're doing the best with what you have, then it works out.
Yeah, I mean, Antioch, is to answer your question, Antioch's in the southeast corner of Davidson County, right on the county line. Huge community of a huge Hispanic community, huge Arabic community, huge community of, like you said, so much diversity. And our school, reflects that. You think about maybe, 30 years ago, the community of Antioch was farm. It was rural. People thought people who lived in Antioch were farmers, literally. And the demographic of that area has changed so much in the last 20, 30 years, even 5, 10 years. We have a huge Kurdish population. We have a huge North African and Eastern African population. So the school itself, going back to your competition comment, or even going back to the funding comment, if you grew up, let's say, I'll pick a student here. If you grew up in El Salvador and you moved to America, there's no way there was high school football in El Salvador. There's no way that there may not have been high school band. I have a student right now who is a junior, and he tells me stories of when he was in quote unquote band in El Salvador. He was like, this was like a community group that all the adults kind of gathered, and we would all run around and do these parades, and I would play these like marching bells and just these songs that I heard in my head, and there was no classes, there was no written things, so yeah, I have those students who come to America and I like music, but band, what is that? Imagine going home as a 6th grader or even a 9th grader and saying, hey mom, I want to be in band. What is that? Oh, by the way, we have these things on Friday nights called Friday night football games, and I stay out until 9:30 at night. Wait, what? What's that? So you have to educate your audience. You also have to understand your audience. I have students that have 7 or 8 siblings, and they can't stay after school because they have to go to work, and they have to be mom, or they have to be dad, or they have to be bus stop duty person. And I remember years ago, I would get so frustrated at students who would miss a rehearsal, or would, not tell me that something was going on until the very end, or would not be prepared or whatever. But then it struck me, it's like, this is just band. This is not life. This is band. And if a kid has to go home and take care of their sick baby brother because their dad's at work, that's what it is. And if you get angry at those things, I don't know what to tell you. If a kid can't do marching band because their mom is too afraid to send them out at night because of, unfortunately, certain situations going on in our communities with certain folks going out there, it's a sad reality. But, like you said, you have to try and turn apples into apple juice as best as you can, and providing students opportunities, getting students an ability to, perform, to be in an organization that loves them and cares about them, to give them structure, to give them something that's maybe different than what they're used to. It may spark interest. I always tell my kids all the time, one day you're going to have kids, and your kids are going to be your age. And because of your high school band experience, you're going to put them in band, or you're going to take them to that community orchestra concert or band concert. And they may be like, what is this? It's because you had that experience that your parents didn't have, that your aunts and uncles and grandparents didn't have because they had no idea. And because of this experience, you're creating the next wave of musicians, the next wave of concert goers, the next wave of art supporters. So yeah, extremely diverse, so many different backgrounds, and it's just it's a y'all come attitude, and I love it. It's like, you want to come on, come on.
Well, now you got me thinking. So, how well did your college experience prepare you for the job that you're in, and how much of it did you learn by being there? And I don't think it's not really my question of like, did college prepare you? This isn't that. It's more seriously like, because I know what your school like and I know what your band is like, but I just think all of us out there who take over programs that we all have this one size fits all. This is what my band is. Here's my jazz band. Here's my concert band. Here's my marching band. Lather, rinse, repeat every year. But I don't think that is the case as I've gotten older and I've moved around. Here I'm teaching in my third state. It is very different each region that I've gone in. And one of the things that stood out in Nashville is like there's two types of culture that we're talking about here. There's the culture that people have of their own families and their backgrounds, but then there's the culture of band, and even that isn't the same from band to band across Nashville.
Growing up in Atlanta, I went to a pretty diverse high school. Metro Atlanta is a pretty diverse area, and
Right.
moving to Tennessee, after I graduated high school, was like, wow, this part of Tennessee does not look the same as where I grew up. This is interesting. Okay, like cool, great. I think my undergrad definitely taught me how to be organized. Definitely taught me how to, understand what it takes to be a music educator. I think grad school taught me how to teach better. It also taught me how to teach everybody, no matter who you are, where you are. And then I think coming into the different programs that I've been in, I've only taught in Title I schools. I've only taught in schools where Caucasian was the minority. And I think, I've grown to really love what I do because of the diversity element. And I've had so many folks along the way, help me. I've had so many folks along the way give me advice. And open my eyes to other things. But I think definitely, growing up in the Atlanta area and also being a jazz musician definitely, helped me understand culture a little more than maybe some others that were, around me or in the same programs as I was. It's just kind of what I believe in.
So I'm thinking now about a band director who might be taking over at a school.
Yeah.
And my question is really revolves around when you walk into that school, you don't know what you're going to walk in all the time. It might be, again, we all have this expectation of what band is, and maybe we don't, and maybe you walk in and wait for that, what that is.
Yeah.
But what advice do you have to somebody that walks into a band program? What is your assessment of how to do band? Because I think for you, my version of it is you walk in, you see who you've got there, and you just turn whatever that is into your strength.
You have to talk to the children. Like, you have to talk to the kids. You don't tell them what to do. You have to understand what they want to do and who they are, and then you go off of that. If like, you have to talk to the kids. You may not have parents, you may not have parent support. You may have a booster organization. I haven't. I mean, I quote unquote have a booster organization, but I don't have 10,000 parents on the field moving props or doing this and doing that. I'm thankful for the 5 or 6 that I do have, and I've always have been. But if you can talk to them, talk to them. If they don't speak the same language as you, you probably should learn how to speak their language. And that could be the actual idiom of the language. I do speak conversational Spanish, learned it in high school, never had a use for it. And then I came to Antioch and I was like, wow, this is awesome. I'm so glad I can do this. If things go a long way when you can talk to someone's abuelita and tell them that their student is not paying attention. If things go a long way, that abuelita will come to your concert and they'll thank you for that. And they'll also support their student playing clarinet, because I have one right now. If it wasn't for her and on the conversations that I have with her, she probably wouldn't be in band. But yeah, talk to your students, understand what they want to do, understand their strengths and their weaknesses, not just musically, but how they operate. What do they like? What music they listen to? Who do they hang out with? Are they sports people? My band are not sports people. I love sports. Just me and my principal tubist in my wind ensemble are I feel like they're the only 2 people who watch sports. Everybody else is like, wait, what? Who? I'm like, come on, man. Did you watch the game? What game? There was a game. So that's just one thing that's just different for me. But it's you talk to your students, understand what's best. our marching band show this year was a tribute to all Hispanic music. We did reggaeton, we did banda, we did you know, Tejano, we did everything because that's what the students know, that's what the students like, that's what the students want. I had a teacher a couple years ago say, "Hey, can we have a majorette squad?" Sure. If that's what the students want, yeah. So I mean, there's a picture on the screen right now of that. It's like, why not? Why? Let's just do it and see what happens. Give them an opportunity. We're not trying to say this is this and this is that, but give them an opportunity. Hey, can we do a dance block? Sure. Hey, can we do? Yeah. Let's do it. Why not? And you learn to then give them ownership, so that when you do need to get on them, or when you do need to say, "Hey, we need to fix this," there's oh yes sir, here we go. It's time to make it happen.
So you have to be doing things like with your students to give them that ownership. It doesn't just magically happen by talking to kids. I mean,
No.
how do you put the social side of your band together? What does that look
You
like?
you go to the bowling matches, you go to the soccer matches, you go to the cheerleading tryouts, you go to the National Honor Society meetings. What's at 8 p.m. on a Thursday? And it doesn't matter. You got to go to those things. You got to go to the quinceañeras. You got to go to the graduation parties. You got to go and you got to tell, again, that same abuelita, "Hey, no offense, but I really can't have that cerveza around here. I got the students around." You know what I'm saying? And she'll laugh at you and she'll say, "It's fine. It's okay." The carne asadas, you have to go to those things because you have to show your students that you're an actual person and not just the guy that waves their arms or the guy that sends the emails and tells them what to do, because they're going to read those emails and they're going to understand what's happening if they know who you are as a person. I have so many siblings of other students that are in band. I invite people from all around the community, all around the state into the band room. How do I not know that the director of bands at Vanderbilt, or the marching band director at UT Knoxville, or the principal trombonist of the Nashville Symphony, or whoever who comes to see my kids is going to inspire somebody or give me an idea or give them an idea, or it pays off later on to give us experiences, to give us opportunities. I've had conductors from Costa Rica, Ecuador, Venezuela in my band room. They've never been around students that are like mine before, because of the experiences you give those students. I've taken students to perform at auto zones. It's like, wait, what? And like the Publix and outlet malls and parades in the rain and the snow, and they say, "Bro, why are we doing this? It's freezing, it's raining." Because you do things like this because people are going to appreciate you, and it's going to bring dividends later. They're going to thank you for this. It may be cold and rainy now, but there's people out there who are standing in the cold and standing in the rain who appreciate you and who are so thankful for you to be out here. And those are the people that are not going to those football games. They're not going to those competitions. They have no idea what that is. They're seeing the band, and they're seeing kids that look like their kids or look like themselves, and say, "Well, that's cool."
Okay, random shout out that just popped in my head, but I miss Publix. I'm just not gonna lie. For
Yeah,
those of you who don't know out there, like Publix is the nicest grocery store. I think it's a Florida one, but
it is
it's
a
one of
Florida
those.
one.
But
Hot take, and all my Florida friends who are listening here, I love Publix chicken. I'm a big fan
oh
of
my
Publix
God,
chicken,
that smell.
but I'm not a Publix chicken finger sub guy. I'm so sorry. I know there's a lot of people listening right now who are going to be like, "No, no, no." Hot take. I'll just get the Italian. I'm not a Publix sub guy with chicken on it, but the chicken's good.
I'm not gonna lie. I like it when these conversations go into the food, because if you've never been to a Publix and smelled the chicken cooking out, that is a whole experience unto itself.
Shout
But
out Dr. Shannon. He's here hanging out in the comments from Belmont University. Again, people like that just coming in and hanging out. People coming in and seeing students, students seeing people that look like them and say, "Wow, this is cool. I never would have imagined doing stuff like this." As a person that is from this part of the world or who looks a certain way. Like, I always thought it was just for these type of people. These type of people, what? No, it's for everybody.
doesn't
It's for
that
everybody.
also speak to about the amount of respect that goes both directions? The
Oh
respect from
yeah.
the director to the students, and the respect from the students to the director. Because I think we all like to do the things that make success for our bands, but I just think, I mean, there might need to have a whole conversation of what is success, because I think all of us, sometimes we put our value on how festival goes or how this goes or that goes. But in the end, it still comes back to it. If your students are happy and you're happy, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, success for us. I always at the end of the year, and even like as the year goes on, it's like, okay, what did we do? And a lot of people, when they think of the words like, what did we do? They think of what did we earn or what did we win? What did we do? Well, we performed at some away football games and saw some schools that we never would have seen before, and saw some bands who then saw us, or some communities that saw us that never saw us before. I'm not going to tell you where it was, but we were in an away football game this year, and we had people coming over. We had teachers, administrators, students, parents being like, wow, like we had no idea that Antioch High School was like this, and had no idea that this was what this was. But like, I wish we played you guys every year here. Like, this is awesome. Never would have gotten those comments if we didn't go and do it. I talk about community performances. I talk about parades. I talk about, events that we perform in. I talk about pep rallies, collaborations with local universities, with other schools, with our middle schools, things like that. Those activities that we do contributes to success. Yes, of course, we go to concert festival. Yes, of course, it's a big part of our deal. Yes, I do, strive for all of our concert ensembles. We have 3 concert bands to all go to concert festival. And I think that the staff and myself prepare our students to do well. We're not trying to win. We're not trying to get straight ones. It's just, if you go through the process, you'll be okay. And if you don't, you won't, and that's also okay. The experience, I think, is better sometimes than not going at all. A colleague of mine told me that 12 years ago. Take them to festivals for the experience. Who cares? Like take them to festival. Well, should I go comment only? Why? Just see what happens. Okay. And then you call the judge and you say, hey, I love your sheets. Can you come talk to me about how to make me better? I never forget, there was a year that I taught middle school and high school at the same time. God bless anybody out there who teaches 5 through 12 band all day, every day. God bless them. But I took I wasn't a middle school band director, took middle school kids to festival. And afterwards I was like, okay, one of y'all needs to come out here and help me, because I'm a high school guy and I learned so much perspective from that. And now I know and understand a lot more about that, group of students than I ever have, So yeah, so success, sorry to kind of go in a circle there. Success isn't measured with plastic trophies you can buy down the street, or plaques, or, oh, look at this, we got what? We got first out of first. We got third out of third. Like, we are killing. Cool, man. Like, it's great. But like, did your kids have fun? Because I bet you the only thing they were excited about was that the nachos were hot at the concession stand, and the hot chocolate tasted like hot water. And the charter bus had chargers in the seats that we could stream our movies and hang out with our friends. That's what they're going to remember. That's what they're going to remember. I was just thinking about this the other day. We're starting to talk about concert festival because it's almost that time of year. And one of my seniors raises his hand and is like, so we're going out to lunch right after? That's what matters. Like, yeah, bro, we are. And we're going to the same place we always go, and we have a great time. Oh yeah, okay, I'm ready. Yeah. Like, and that's just what it is. And sometimes I can get a little crazy, but other times it's like, like, it is what it is, and this is what it is. And you learn to understand your students and understand your community, and you either make it work or you can't. I guess I don't know how else to put it, but
my perspective is, I don't want anybody out here listening to think that Frank Zimmerer doesn't expect and want the best out of his band program, because I know yes, that to be 100%
yes,
that the case. But it's that whole perspective out there of, it's really the question is, what do you want your students to remember about being in band, or what do you want your students to remember about you? Because I think that's really kind of like at the foundation of what it is what, band is probably going to be the greatest part of growing up.
Yeah.
And, and what do you want for your students? Because I think about that every day. Sometimes I think to myself, man, I've been rehearsing really hard this last couple of weeks. I really should do something fun, or at least give the kids something different to do. Because I sometimes find myself getting too competitive in terms of wanting them to get their music learned, but that is not the be all end all of their existence. Sometimes I got to remember, they've got an AP test after band on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Or, there's other, and you said it too,
they have jobs, they have things to do. I see on Facebook, oh, look at all these kids that made my honor band or made All-State, blah, 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 blah. Out of 170 in my program, I have 2 trying out for region band, and maybe one of them will make All-State, maybe. Does that make me a bad band director? Does that make me a bad person? Does that, I don't have, who cares? It's what it is. I don't
You
have
know
private
what?
lessons. I don't have the
If
cash. I don't
if
have the things that
I was
maybe
just
other
gonna
people
say,
have, you know?
I was just going to say, if you had infinite funds and
Yeah.
every single one of your kids had private lessons from, say, like one of the Nashville Symphony people,
Yeah.
or from that, I would then expect a lot of
Of
my students to be an
course.
honor band. But if I don't have that, how do you expect me to have a kid that can't afford lessons, is barely playing on an instrument that I recognize the brand name, on a reed that probably is, if I'm not providing the good materials? I think that's where we sometimes get a little too competitive, because I've said that time and time again. I've been in the situation where, yeah, I've had 18 kids make All-State. Oh, that's right. 18 of them were taking private lessons that they
Yeah.
funded by themselves. That's the expectation. But when you don't have those resources, what are we trying to say sometimes when we say how many kids make honor band? Because I always found that to be, I've been in both situations. I've been in the Title I school. I've been
Mhm.
in the top school, and I understand the difference, but I'm not sure everyone out there does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, full disclosure, my band fee, which is really a donation, it's a donation to the school. I mean, it's not required for folks to pay it. If they do, it's cool. If not, it's what it is. It's $250 for marching band, and it's 35 for concert band. And I have kids that don't do it, and I don't deny them the opportunity to be in band because of that. And I don't deny them this or that. And that's just what it is. And we can't do it. But I will work tooth and nail to make things happen and figure out ways to, write grants, look for scholarships, get people to sponsor and do things, so we can have experiences. And sometimes we get lucky, and sometimes we get to have some great things. I've had great partnerships with, again, local universities, who've helped out with, but hey, you know what? I'm going to send you a guy to teach some lessons pro bono. That's awesome. Can you ask you a question? Yeah. What's up? Can I do 2 or 3 for, like, in one lesson and make it like a trio lesson? Yeah, whatever. Cool. More experiences, more ways for the kids to enjoy it, and more kids that are affected by that, and not just one kid. Hey, I have enough money to have one kid get a lesson. How about 3 or 4? And it's still spam, but you can, like, rapid fire 10 minutes each. 10 minutes is better than 0. Stretch it. And that's what we do, and things like that. It's how we function, how we make it happen. And I think so many people are afraid of teaching Title I. So many people are afraid of teaching, inner city, teaching kids that don't look like them. Why? Like, why? If you care about the students, and you have a vision, and you have good direction, and you're organized, and you listen to the students, and you be as professional as you can, and as organized and responsible as you can to make it happen, So it's like, it's it's hard, but it's rewarding. And people always joke with me, you can go somewhere else and have, 50 kids make All-State and play grade 6 and all this and blah 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 blah. Yeah, I could do that, but do I want to do that? I feel like I'm having, a more of an effect on my students here, and they're, really understanding what it takes to be, like I said before, a well-rounded citizen, a good person, organized, professional. Maybe they can play all 12 scales. That'd be cool. Can they play in tune? Can they, lower the D on an alto sax because it's a little too sharp? Maybe, hopefully. Yes, he's Duarte knows. So yeah.
Cause here's the thing. I was administrator for all those years, and I'm the crazy one who just said, you know what? I think I'm going to go back and teach high school after I
Yeah.
retire, because I wanted to go back and make a difference. And even more so, I'm going to keep saying it, I wanted to make a difference at somewhere that needed it. Because I think like I said, I have lived the spectrum of playing at Midwest. I've lived at the spectrum of that. I don't need to do that anymore. And you know what's weird? I'm going to say this. It's my controversial statement. I worked 10 times harder at the schools that didn't have the same things as that
Oh
band
yeah.
that played at Midwest. And the thing is, they're going to get none of the accolades, but yet I'm telling you, the bands that I've had that can't get to that level, not because they're not capable, it's just access to resources. Those kids are not getting rewarded for all the amount of effort and growth that they put in there. And if I could, I always say this, I really wish I could go to the magic bank and just,
Yeah.
and have it. Cause I already think to myself, there's 2 things you've got to have. You've got to have working capital, and you've got to have working, maintenance and
Yeah.
operations. So if you give me the working capital, I'm going to pick every instrument down to the, down
I'll
to it.
say
And then,
I'll say too, hot take again, for those people out there who may be in the trenches, whether you're in a rural situation and you're the only person in town and you have the band of whatever it is, or you're in an urban situation where it's very transient, or you don't have the funds, or you have a high school band that is basically beginners, grade 2, grade 3 is okay. You don't have to play grade 4, grade 5, grade 6. And just because your friend plays it in the town over, just because you played it in college, just because, the band you saw at Midwest or state conference or whatever, doesn't mean you got to do that. And, shout out the composers that write a really good grade 2, grade 3 for, they may say it's for middle school band, but there's some high school bands, that do it and do it well. And you can do a lot. You can teach a lot about musicality and a lot about phrasing and a lot about, intonation, all the spots you have. You can do that with something that you may look at and be like, man, this is not written for high school. Music is music. Music is music. And I've played some grade 1 pieces of music with students that you say, wait, they're in high school playing grade 1. Yeah, but they enjoyed it and they learned something and they made great sounds and they learned about, ways to do certain things because of that. And the composer appreciates it because maybe it's new, or maybe it's the latest greatest thing. It's not grade 5, it's not grade 6, and that's okay.
oh my God, there's so much going in my head right now. Cause I
Sorry.
think you hit a sore spot in a good way. Cause that's one of those things that I've had to learn. There are 2 reasons to pick music: what your band needs to learn to play and something that maybe they can play.
Yeah.
And to me, I keep hot taking all over the place today. I'm not sure that's a sentence I should
That's
use,
okay.
but,
I'm saying it too. You got to go and find me.
no, it's that whole thing. I have been crucified and praised for the same exact thing. Actually, I did this at Nashville School for the Arts when I got there. I think I played a grade 2 when I got there because I didn't need them. I did not need them to play grade 5. I needed to see that they could do everything that was.
Correct.
I needed to see if they could decode.
Correct.
And that
Or
was
you
the whole
say-
thing. They weren't reading the accents on the top of the page. They
Yeah.
weren't playing the staccatos. They weren't reading the dynamics. And and they also had to get to know me, which is like sandpaper.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
you go to festival and the judge says, "Oh, this is too easy, too easy." Well, first of all, we never have 100% attendance because, like I say, attendance is a problem. And if I'm a kid who has to take care of a grandma, or I have to take care of my uncle, or go translate for my mom at the doctor's office, I'm not going to school. Or, hey, we have snow days. It's real in the South. If you see snow, you're canceled. If you think about the word snow, you're canceled. Just because I'm saying the word snow right now, that's the curse word, the S word. Like, it's going to be canceled. Part of the deal. Sickness is real. Pretending that you're sick is real. Students that don't want to come to school because they don't feel that great mentally is real. So with all that being said, grade 3 is fine for us, and that's what we're going to do, and it's going to be okay. And if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you.
I was just thinking, because I'm in year 1 in my school, and one of the pieces I picked was because I didn't want to work on it. I wanted to teach more than I wanted to teach. Hot take again. I'm sorry, I'm hot taking.
Yeah, we got to retire this.
But too many band directors, and this is my opinion from being an administrator, not from being a band director. Too many people spend so much time teaching their music to their band program, and their band is a performance of what they've taught the band, not a performance of what the band has learned.
Yeah.
And I've seen it time and time and time again. And I remember a band director, we had this conversation. I'm not going to mention her name, but it was, your bands are great. They're always going to get straight ones at festival, but it's what you've taught them. They're not, and this goes back to why sight reading needs to exist, because when you do sight reading as part of your festival, you can see what the bands know as opposed to what they can do, and trust me, sometimes if the music's too hard.
Speaking of music too, I think it's important that my students play music by people that look like them, sound like them, or from the same place that they're from. Shout out Murphy Music Press, super into young composers from the most diverse, spectrum of idioms that you can imagine. Like, how many of my students would have never played a piece of music by a Hispanic composer, or by a Black woman, or by, a trans person? Come on. Like, you have to have your students playing that type of music. And what if that person, what if they write a grade 1, and that's the only piece that's out there, but your student has said, hey, we really need to think about playing some music that, represents who I am. Again, I just a quick shout out on playing music by people who look like, sound like, are from the same type of places that your kids are from. And maybe that music isn't grade 6, or maybe it's not on the list, Santa's list, of course, making a list, checking it twice. That's okay. It's fine. So yeah.
But yeah, I'm one of those fans of picking music just because it's good music. But I also have to pick music that's good music of underrepresented composers.
Have
But I
to.
love to I love to sneak it in though. I love to teach the music first and then go into the historical details or about the person, because in the end there is that connection. But it sometimes it takes a little bit of teaching the kids that you know what is music really. It's a bunch of notes on a page, and we're
Yeah.
doing the thing. But at some point you gotta play for the heart
Yeah.
and not just play for those notes on the page. And I think, like I said, I'm going back to the hot take. Sometimes we just spend our time performing music. I even, myself at this last concert, I started going to the historical context because I kind of got a little short end of the deal to get my concert ready to go. And one of the students, like right before the rehearsals, why didn't you tell us this stuff earlier? That would have been super helpful.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know, you are right. And that made me kind of like, think about those things through. But programming is something that's very personal. And and Casey Ward on our episode was talking about it and being very intentional about it.
Have to.
And I think that's, and you're just talking about your marching show, all that, again, it goes back to if we see people that look and sound like us, imagine what it feels like if you feel a connection there, and that's all we're trying to do.
Story time about the marching band show real quick. We were at the picture on the screen is from a community parade we did at the beginning of school. We always do it. It's run by one of our Metro Council people. But anyway, Aztec Nashville was there. They're the historic Aztec dancers, which I've seen many times. We got to talking, and we were like, hey, it'd be super cool if you guys could come to one of our football games and do kind of a side-by-side show. You guys can perform, we perform. It'd be a great little idea. Set it up. It was awesome. There was another picture floating around of our color guard hanging out with them. But little did I know, there's an Antioch High School student who's in that ensemble. That because of that, it's like, wait, not only are you connecting community to community, but there is a student who goes to school in your school who's a part of that organization who now feels seen because what they do for fun and what they do outside of school has now been opened up more to more people, and more people have seen it. And since then, she's gotten more interest of like, hey, tell me more about this and tell me more about what this is, and you spark more conversations. You never know who you're going to talk to. You never know who you're going to see. You never know who you're going to involve. You never know what music you're going to put in front of a kid that is going to inspire them to do something else or to do something about it, or to be like, hey, I can relate to this. I will never forget one of my great friends. I've known her for so long, Michelle Fernandez, phenomenal composer, phenomenal jazz educator, music educator. She writes all genres of music. When we played empty rafts, the amount of emotion that was displayed on my students when they performed that piece of music, it's like, hey friends, my parents did this, or my grandma did this, or the reason I'm here is because we did this. We may not have come on a raft, but we came on the back of a truck, or we came, in a van, or we came on an airplane saying that we would stay, or whatever it was. And you never know how powerful music can be, but you have to allow the students to have that opportunity. You have to give them the risk to take, and maybe get, push the envelope a little bit, to really, open up their hearts and their minds. And it lives with them forever. It's one of the most phenomenal musical experiences I've ever had. We got to perform it at Vanderbilt's on Vanderbilt's campus a couple years ago. It was phenomenal. Again, shout out Michelle Fernandez, great composer. I see this question on the screen. Should we take a look at this real quick?
Yeah, it's from Ricardo. Do you guys ever go to festival and get the comment that your band needs harder music?
Yes and no. I think what my regional association is really doing a good job at now is finding adjudicators that understand the types of students and the types of ensembles that they're seeing, so they understand scheduling conflicts. There was a time where I only saw my kids 3 days a week, plus snow days, plus sickness, plus mental health, and they get that. There's also been times where I've seen my kids 5 days a week, and we have a concert camp on a weekend, and we have after school rehearsals, and we push the envelope in music. So yeah, I think to answer Ricardo's question, don't let that, sit with you so long. That's like, oh my gosh, did I under program? I think A, it's all about programming, and B, just because it's cool, just because it's grade 5 or grade 6 doesn't mean you should play it. And C, like my great friend Nola Jones and Joanne Hood always said, don't leave your one in the library.
Yeah, it's funny that comment, because I was just thinking about too. It depends to me on how well you play or don't play something, because sometimes you could play a grade 5 or 6 and just play it great, and then it actually comes at oh my god, that you're making it sound so easy, and that the reverse can be true too. This also goes back to the quality of music that you select, because you can pick, sometimes to me good music is good music. I don't, and you're right, there's one, I'm trying to think who wrote it. It's going to pass over my head, but it's a grade 2. I'll take it to festival anytime, because it is just a great piece of music. And here's one, Sean O'Loughlin's Silent Night.
Yeah.
If you haven't done it, that is one of the best transcriptions of Silent Night. And that's what, a grade 2 or grade 3 out there.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I know
it's okay
great.
if your woodwinds can't play, you don't have to play Granger. Like, it's fine. Like, you may have the greatest trumpet section in the history of all trumpet sections. That's cool. Like, feature them, pick something for them, but don't leave your woodwinds out to dry, or don't leave your percussion out to dry. Well, this calls for 8 percussion parts, but only have 3 in my band. I wonder if they can share that. Yeah, probably not. Or ask a mentor, ask somebody, say, hey, here's a recording of my band. Here's my instrumentation. Here's what I got. What do you think? I think a huge problem that a lot of our young teachers have is they're too afraid to show their dirty laundry. They're too afraid to tell people, where they are. Hey, it's fine. Just tell me where you are. Tell me what you got. Tell me what you're thinking about. Let's pick something that's good for them. And don't feel like, oh, I'm a terrible teacher because my band is bad and I got 10 kids only, and 2 of them don't play and the other one's like, just give me what you got. There's stuff out there. And another thing too, which I always stress to people who may be in smaller programs, maybe not prepared to go to a concert festival, solo and ensemble. What's the second word? Ensemble. You can take a band of 10 to solo and ensemble, have the exact same experience, play for adjudication, play for ratings, and that's a great way to introduce your students to concert festival. How do you not know those 10 kids will then become 20 kids, and those 20 will then become 40? And wait a minute, in year 3, we're going to concert festival with a full ensemble. Imagine that, So don't let it be, if I go to concert festival, it'll be so bad. There's many different ways to do it. I know people who spend their money on concert festival on bringing in a high quality adjudicator and hanging out with them for a whole day, doing comments, doing a concert, maybe recording some things, doing a leadership conference of sorts with your kids. Do what's best for them. Do what's best for your kids. Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean you have to do it. Just because everybody else is doing competitive band doesn't mean you have to do competitive band. Sorry.
No, it was funny because I was thinking to myself, when you said when you're young, trying to put out there your dirty laundry. I think the problem is when you get older, you're like, I'm just only going to put out my dirty laundry, because I think one of the things that I've learned as I've gotten older is, okay, I don't know everything, so who's going to help me fix this? And out there, I have 3 flutes in my program, and I just found out last week that one of them's moving, so now I'm going to have 2 flutes.
Yeah,
and that makes it super hard to have first, second flute, and piccolo when you.
And that's not going to discourage you from playing a concert, from programming music, from doing something, from doing something.
I think maybe it's not the popular thought, but to me, band is about the experience of what you provide, not about the festival or the thing, because really the culture of band to me is whatever you decide it's going to be. Correct. And if you're happy and the students are happy, the parents are happy, the administration's happy, I think we're in the right place.
Correct.
Yeah. Now here's my scariest thought. You ready?
Always.
We have been going for 54 minutes because, of course, it's a Frank and David conversation that we lose track of time. And we really haven't talked about the part of band, about the culture of band all that much yet. But we could go forever and a day and actually end something. But here's my thing. The show's got to end sometime because, there is food to be had. I mean, now I want Publix chicken. I'm just throwing that out there.
You got to come south for that.
Oh my God, I do miss Publix. So anyway, I always like to end the show with, a final thought from my guest. And it doesn't have to be about band. It doesn't have to be about anything. It really just, this show is called Culture Before Content. And maybe it's just, what are you leaving us with today? What is your thought? What's your final thought?
My final thought is, if you don't know your kids, get to know them. And you may say, well, I know that I am. Go in tomorrow, and if you haven't done the 6-7, do it and see what they do. Sorry, David, you got to get there. If you haven't talked about, what's on TV, what's on the internet, movies, music, you're behind. If you're going to go in there and not talk about, your favorite pie from Thursday, that's a problem. Tell them. And you may have a kid that says, pie, what's that? Ooh, now we have a discussion. Now we have a welcoming ritual. Now we have a check the box opening statement in our lesson plans. Which pie is better? So talking to your audience, getting to know your kids, getting to know your community is step one. I think step two is the notes and rhythms. I've always said that. The culture before content, # David Duarte. So yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Go to those conferences, stay an extra hour if you need to, and look through the library, and do something extra. Just like Dr. Clifford Matson always says, take the green lifesaver and do something extra.
But I like the butterscotch.
The butterscotch is okay.
I know, but I'm just saying it's been a while. So, when's the last time? I haven't seen Lifesavers in a while. Don't ask me how this conversation is going here, but now I think you got me hungry with the chicken. Anyway, oh my God, it's been so nice to catch up with you today. Because here's my thing, audience, you need to talk to this gentleman. Because if you can tell anything, I'll say this, Frank, you're a little bit passionate about what you do and the music.
Just a tad,
just a little bit,
just a little bit.
And you are fresh off of getting your doctorate. And as soon as I heard that doctor in front of your name, I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember the day you started. I remember
during COVID.
I know, because that's when, we all love that time.
Yeah.
But I know you said we could share your email and some of your socials, but so
I'm an open book. I always say it to people. Love me or hate me, I'm an open book. I'll tell you everything and anything. I won't tell you my social security number or my address, but I'll tell you everything and anything. No problem.
His email is FT Zimmerer. I can't even say Zimmerer. Why is that so hard? That's always
2 M's, 2 ERs.
Yeah, FTZIMMERER @gmail.com. I always figured that last part. And also, I think we had a social for you. Your Instagram is at the Antioch Band, which is
come follow us along.
Yep, ANTIOCH. So at the Antioch Band, and the other one, which you can explain for a second, at AMA_Stars and Stripes.
Yeah, American Music Abroad, a great program for high school band, choir, and orchestra musicians. I run the Stars and Stripes tour out of the Southeast. We take students from all over the Southeast to Europe, and we play music. And if you think culture with your own students is fun, but how about culture with a bunch of students that you've never met before? You leave with amazing new friends. And AMA has been around for over 50 years. Huge believer in travel, and it's a great opportunity for students to experience other cultures that are different than theirs while enjoying music, which is what we're all into. So yeah.
Well, Frank, amazing. Thank you for being here today. I had a great time. I hope you had a great time.
Yes, this was awesome. Anytime you want to chat, whether it's on a podcast or on the phone.
No, you just reminded me I need to text more. I have been super slow. I got to quit taking over jobs. It just kind of occupies my whole life.
Hey, have a great, everybody out there, have a great concert season. I know some people are getting ready for their concerts, whether it's your first concert, your second concert, your last concert. Have a great time. Smile. Whatever happens, happens. The audience is going to clap because they love you and they love your students. So why not enjoy it? Have a great holiday season as well. We'll get approaching the holiday season here.
It is time. Tomorrow is December.
Yes.
All right, Frank. Thank you so much.
See you, Dave. All right.
See ya. Well, thank you. Wasn't that amazing? Thank you for spending part of your day with us. And as we wrap up, I'd love you to share this podcast on your social media, because when you do, it helps bring more teachers and finds their way to us and leads us into the better conversations. We had a little bit of conversation today, and I appreciate that. All the comments, there's some great ones today. Loved it. Anyway, I've also want to share my email address. It's david.duarte@me.com. I've heard from many of you and a lot of you. I'm enjoying a lot of that. I also have my Instagram, which is really just a basic way for me to get the show out there, which is at Culture Before Content. And I also have my website at davidduarte.org, which has a lot of resources. It's super popular for PLC benchmarks, scope and sequence, and I've been using that a lot more lately. So if you have any questions on it, and I do have my student teacher framework. And if you got student teachers on there, I have my belief on how to do that. Did my whole master's thesis on that. And don't forget, this episode, along with many others, is available at musicforall.org/podcast. And lastly, a heartfelt thanks to Music for All for bringing this show to life, and to Yamaha, our national presenting sponsor, for making all of this possible. And again, I'm David Duarte, your host. Thanks for being a part of our culture today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.